It's Richard here from Intelligent Advisor IT Consulting with a breakdown of some of the answers that you were kind enough to give us during our State of the Nation survey for Oracle Intelligent Advisor 2022. Just a reminder, this survey ran roughly from the beginning of September up to the start of Oracle Cloud World 2022 in Las Vegas. And over that period of time, we collected, I think, 60 responses. After removing the duplicates and the spam, we ended up with 53 individual responses, and this is the presentation, therefore, of those results. Question number 1, which is an open-ended question and you can answer more than one, is all about the products that your organization uses. Clearly, you can see from this that Oracle Intelligent Advisor 12, whether it be on-premise or cloud, is leading the pack. What is interesting is the prevalence still of a fairly 20% of those responding also used Oracle Intelligent Advisor 10. As we'll see in a later question, that is quite a regional split. We can also see the growth of non-Oracle software. This is the first time we've seen recognizable numbers of Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics. There is an other which contained a couple of custom applications, and it's also worthwhile mentioning you can see how many of customers are really using fully managed OIA because they are using Oracle Identity Cloud Service as well. So this is a breakdown of the answers from the previous question. So as I said, it was possible to answer with multiple responses. So you can see that Oracle Intelligent Advisor is massively present in the 53 or so respondents that we had. And recognizable numbers of Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics, as I mentioned. Of the more information or the other choices, we saw two that were perhaps not unexpected: platform as a service and infrastructure as a service on OCI. So we can roll those up into the other numbers. Question number 2, which was kind of the same angle, which is which of the following are integrated or plan to integrate with Oracle Intelligent Advisor for each of the customers who answered. As you can see, there is a huge number of Oracle B2C service customers out there, no doubt who are asking themselves questions about the future of their product, but I'm sure that they've seen the announcements from Oracle, so they are now reassured. Oracle B2B sales and service, same thing. Oracle Integration Cloud, I think, is really interesting to see how much that has increased since last year. There is a link in the article that accompanies this video where you can see last year's results. Oracle Siebel still holding its own, and I think without being too much of a crystal ball gazer, the prevalence or the coexistence of Oracle Siebel and some of the Oracle Policy Automation 10. There are a number of large customers, notably in North America, who are running Siebel and OPA 10 and have no intention of moving from that. Great to see also the large numbers of customers using Digital Assistant, so chat, but also other chats. Here's the breakdown since you were able to answer more than one. You can get a copy of this presentation, by the way, at the bottom of this article. And these are the 4 interesting answers that we got that are other to question 2. Custom injectors. So this is a very large customer that uses PLSQL stored procedures to build JSON. And the JSON is then fed into the batch engine. Java and Angular apps, well, whoever answered that will be pleased to see the evolution of the interview platform towards a custom rendered web authoring. If you haven't already seen the articles on that subject, I strongly recommend that you go and read them. Oracle Visual Builder Cloud Service. Now, clearly, one of the big things that came away from Oracle Cloud World is for people who are interested in Oracle Intelligent Advisor and where Oracle Intelligent Advisor is going and how it might appear in the future in other applications, it would be good value and good for them to invest a little bit of time in Oracle Visual Builder Cloud Service. Finally, the last other was directly, or rather indirectly, an Oracle database. There are quite a few customers using the what here I've called the batch engine, which is the old batch engine, which either used a database or a CSV file, as opposed to the REST batch. There are quite a few customers still using that, and if you've invested heavily in that and you've got the performance you needed, then you probably will not be moving away from that, in the short term at least. Question 3 moved away from the details of what it is people do and what it is people integrate with to the status of their project. We have clearly a majority on cloud. We have a reasonable amount on premise and quite a few hybrids. Great to see that there are plenty out there who are developing but not yet live, so they're, if you can think of them as new starters in this, and also good to see that there are some in the early phases of their project. So Oracle Intelligent Advisor continues to be an area where growth is recorded. And here is the detail. So 42% are live on cloud and 14% have multiple environments. Now this one is essentially for statistical purposes, but is also very interesting if you start cross-matching this data with the previous questions. Really interesting to see that Europe has overtaken North America and Asia. Historically, it's not surprising that Oceania has a fairly large penetration of Oracle Intelligent Advisor, given that it was essentially born there. Finally, it is really interesting to note that, as I said earlier, that North America hosts a large number of OPA 10 customers, historically large public sector organizations, whereas Europe seems to be more focusing on the Oracle Intelligent Advisor version 12. The respondents were in many different industries, and there were a fairly large proportion of others, which I'll come to in just a moment. But as you can see, OIA continues to be prevalent in public sector, whether it be national, federal, or lower level, or even community. But it is interesting to note how many high-tech manufacturing companies and pharmaceutical companies are actually using Oracle Intelligent Advisor. So there are the answers broken down. So today we have, according to our survey, nearly 49%, in fact over 50% if we count all the public sectors. However, there's a healthy chunk, there's 11% financial services and telecommunications. If we roll up with pharma and manufacturing, we're into the 20-25%. The others that, so next time around we'll remember to put education, whether it be a public sector or private sector, and university. So those are, I'm recognizing that the survey should have actually included those as options. Equally, the tech consulting and information technology, I think that people are answering rather for their employer rather than the project that they're working on. And some people, of course, work on multiple industries. Now we move on to what you would like to see from, well, first of all, intelligentadvisor.com, but also just Intelligent Advisor community as a whole. And the question is books and ebooks that you'd like to see. Clearly, there's a big demand for rule writing with examples. As we move towards web-based authoring, it's not surprising also to see that there's a large demand for decision services. It's worthwhile mentioning that we already have a fairly large amount of content on those two topics. Administration, fair enough. Interview design, I would imagine that this will grow also as we move towards the new custom rendered web authoring, which will require many people to rethink a little bit how they design interviews, both from a technical and a functional perspective. And then for chat channels, as I would expect, for mobile devices, that is probably synonymous of the question mark at the moment, where you will have noticed, I'm sure, that the mobile SDK and the mobile app have been withdrawn from general release. So right now we have a question mark over where that's going. We're taking all these on board, and in 2023 we're going to be focusing on the 3 items, probably the 4 items that have the highest numbers, specifically rule writing with examples, decision services, interview design, and chat channels. But we'll try and cover all of these. Here's the breakdown in numbers, so you can see that many people asked for multiple things, which is great. You can see that decision services are well up there, clearly in second place, followed by interview design and for chat channels. And the others, so people who actually went to the trouble of providing more information, for which I thank them, advanced design patterns. So clearly, as you move into more complex rule bases and more complex entity models, you begin to become concerned about the overall project design, whether it be adhering to some methodology such as object-oriented design, or whether it is simply in the guise of optimizing performance by avoiding certain things or treating certain requirements in certain ways. So yes, advanced design patterns clearly are something that we are going to try and cover in 2023. Integrating with Salesforce came up, but we've actually already covered this, and there is a ecosystem provider that actually has a integration with Salesforce. For those of you who are aware of this, there's a company called Cultivate, which has a Salesforce connector. It uses the interview connector framework that many of you are already familiar with, that is used to power B2C, B2B, sales, Siebel, and so forth, and any web service connector. We are planning on going back to looking at how the web service connector works, not specifically with Salesforce, but we could probably think about that. But as I say, it's already covered off both on our site, but also by an ecosystem member called Cultivate. Advanced training, we have quite a bit of advanced training already out there. We have temporal training, decision services, and relationships covered in great detail, but taking it on board that there should be more advanced training available on the website. Integration with MS Dynamics, integration with ServiceNow. So I'd say that's kind of me repeating myself. They will all use the interview connector. So maybe we'll choose one of those as our next sort of focus article. Large-scale rule management. So I would say this kind of ties into advanced design patterns. There's a need to understand both from an internal perspective, how to manage large numbers of rules in a project, but also how perhaps to manage those in the wider sphere of things, in terms of how do you manage them in your repository, how do you manage them in deployments, and so on. And then there was a very specific question, and I'm going to use this video as an opportunity to ask the person who wrote this to get in touch, because I wasn't quite clear what they want, how to get at the data collected in an IA form via the OICS connector. So if that was you, reach out to us, add a comment, or get in touch with us so we can understand better what it is you're interested in. What kind of content would you like to see on the website? So having moved away from books and ebooks, now we're going to look at the website. Technical training and advanced functional training. Big takeaways is that people want to move beyond standard functional training and go to advanced rules, temporal reasoning, relationships, cross-entity reasoning, and so on. And at the same time, there's a bunch of people who would consider themselves technical who want to learn how to write more JavaScript extensions. We need to have this in our minds when we're thinking about also the custom rendered web authoring that is coming up and has just been put on limited availability release, because that will affect technical and functional people. So keep an eye out for changes in that respect. Downloadable commented examples I can read for myself. That's an interesting one. So yes, that's something we will consider actively placing on our website in 2023. There's the spread of the choices, and you can see that JavaScript extensions and technical training always comes up top. I don't know why, given that it's a thing that you only do as a last resort. Maybe because it's the last resort, people need to know about it. And then we're into functional training with policy modeling and decision services. Interesting to see how people are beginning to wake up that decision services form part of the next generation authoring. Decision services are built on the web, no OPM is required, no Word or Excel, and they form part of the four elements of the web authoring in the future. So if you haven't already got into decision services, now is the time. And what were the others? External integration. So kind of, yes, the big takeaway is that we would probably in 2023 need to cover off the interview connectors again. So the web service connectors and possibly the Fetch API again. OICS data. So this is obviously the same person who asked the question in the previous one. OICS did access to IA collected data and sending back. If this was you, get in touch, explain what the question that you're actually asking is.